There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws.
Jaws really is, without a doubt, one of the greatest, most influential movies of all time. And by all accounts, it really shouldn't have been. It was a film that was plagued by production troubles and being made by a brand new director. It was safe to say that no one had faith in Jaws. Then with the movie filming months past schedule and going millions over budget, it's a miracle that the film ever even came out in the first place. And don't even get me started on the shark. Not exactly what you think of when thinking about what's widely considered the world's first blockbuster. But, rather miraculously, the movie ended up releasing on June 20th, 1975, to an insane amount of commercial and critical success. And quite frankly, even almost 50 years later at this point, it's easy to see why. The movie is fucking phenomenal. From the memorable characters to the iconic score, it's easy to see why Jaws was as popular as it was. However, this video isn't about the original Jaws. But oh boy do I wish it was. You see, after the insane success of the movie, sequels were inevitable. And while the concept of a sequel doesn't really bother me, it really does for Jaws. Like, what are they gonna do? Have the shark come back? Have Brody have to stop the shark again? Oh, well, that's exactly what they're gonna do apparently. 3 more times. The Jaws sequels officially began in June 16th, 1978, only 3 years after the original, in a film simply titled Jaws 2. Now, while I personally have a soft spot for Jaws 2, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who would say it's a better movie than the first. The film is essentially the exact same as the first, but this time with worse characters, worse dialogue, and worse direction. While it does still have Roy Schneider as Chief Brody, and an honestly pretty cool shark design, it simply couldn't live up to the admittedly high bar set by the original. As a quick side note, did you know that Steven Spielberg was supposed to come back to direct this one? Universal ended up going on without him due to a scheduling conflict or something, but fuck man, that might honestly be the biggest mistake in the history of filmmaking on Universal's part. It's also the reason Spielberg decided to keep such a close eye on the Jurassic Park sequels. And, I mean, to be fair, a lot of those movies aren't fantastic.
Alan.
But they're a hell of a lot better than whatever the fuck happened with the Jaws franchise. Which I suppose brings me into talking about Jaws the Revenge. The 4th and final movie in the Jaws-averse was released on July 17th, 1987, and I don't even know where to begin with this one, man. In Jaws the Revenge, the shark, which looks even worse than it did 12 years earlier somehow, has gone full Michael Myers and is stalking the remaining members of the Brody family to the Bahamas, where it looks like shit and doesn't kill anybody. It's also one of the only movies to exist with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's definitely not just me who hates this movie. It does have Michael Caine in it though, which is always nice to see. But then you see this shitty ass shark puppet standing out of the water, growling at the characters like a tiger, and any enjoyment you would have gotten out of seeing a great actor has ultimately vanished.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
Yeah, I bet Jaws 2 doesn't look so bad now, does it? Now, if you know anything about the Jaws franchise, which, for your sake, I hope you don't, or if you were paying attention to the video, you probably noticed that I skipped the movie. And no, this isn't because it's my first YouTube video and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Which, by the way, make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. But anyways, on July 22nd, 1983, the world was graced by what might very well be the worst movie of all time. That's right, Jaws 3, also known as Jaws 3D, is... well, it's a weird fucking movie. First of all, the movie takes place at SeaWorld Orlando, which... I mean, yeah, alright, whatever. And it follows a shark making its way through this SeaWorld and ultimately wreaking havoc in just about the dumbest ways possible. There really isn't much to Jaws 3 after all. The shark making its way into an aquatic theme park seems like a cool idea for a few scenes in a better movie. But overall, it's really just a boring film, which is something you probably don't want your giant shark monster movie to be. But alas, it's also got some of the worst underwater shots I've ever seen, which I get that it's an old movie, but I don't know, man. Also, probably the biggest problem with this film, the whole movie takes place at SeaWorld, right? And you have this giant monster shark going into SeaWorld. And he doesn't fight Shamu. You had one Jaw movie. Even in that weird old Jaws video game you did this right. Which, by the way, I can't think of the name of it right now, but that game is just a way better version of this movie. So if you want some cool Jaws vs. SeaWorld action, just play the game. Don't watch this piece of garbage. Even with the movie's shitty effects, it still would have been pretty sick to see. I mean, who doesn't want to see a giant great white shark versus a killer whale? Even with those effects, which is another thing. For a movie with 3D in the title, there's no way this is the best you guys could come up with. Even for the time, people had to have seen this and just... well, they probably went home, bleached their eyeballs, and drank half a gallon of the cheapest vodka they could possibly find. 'Cause like, what the fuck is this? Even still, this video isn't about Jaws 3D. It's not about Jaws 2, it's not about Jaws the Revenge, it's not even about the first Jaws. You see, what we're going to be talking about today is Jaws 3, People Zero. The cancelled National Lampoon Jaws 3. The movie that made it so far into production that a script was made. Yeah, for Jaws 3, People Zero. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, how is this even a thing that exists? And, well, so am I. But essentially, two producers on the previous Jaws films, they pitched a script to Universal that would essentially make this Jaws sequel a spoof movie of everything that came before it. They also got Maddie Simmons, the producer on most of the National Lampoon's movies, attached, which is honestly a pretty big deal. Simmons also had his National Lampoon's writers come in and tweak the script up a little bit to make it fit more into the National Lampoon genre of comedy. Whatever the hell that is. Now, at this point you're probably thinking to yourself, this movie doesn't sound that bad. And you're not wrong. I mean, Maddie Simmons had just came off of the critically acclaimed Animal House. And with his name behind it, the movie was showing good signs. That is until you hear what the script was going to be. And then the film goes from Jaws to Sharknado real quick. The film was set to follow a film production team, as they set out to make their own version of Jaws 3, in which the shark is an alien. However, during the production, they come to the realization that they are being stalked by an actual shark the whole time. Which makes sense, I guess? The opening of the movie was apparently supposed to involve the original Jaws novel author, Peter Benchley, as he got eaten by a shark in his pool, which is honestly just pretty disrespectful if we're being for real here. There were also going to be a few scenes that directly parodied the first Jaws movie. For example, the opening of the original would be redone almost entirely, but this time involving a bunch of slimy Hollywood elites. As well as that scene where they open up the shark in the first movie, except for this time the shark would spill its guts with a bunch of random knickknacks and things that, I don't know, doesn't really sound very funny if I'm being completely honest. Steven Spielberg was also set to play a part in the movie. Not in the film's production like you might expect, but he was like actually supposed to be a character. Like Steven Spielberg was playing Steven Spielberg in this shitty shark movie. Now the real question is, would this movie have been any good? And I mean, to be fair, it probably wouldn't have been good at all, but there is still that chance. I mean, if you look back at what National Lampoon's was doing at the time, it was pretty good. Animal House, Vacation, Christmas Vacation, those are three of the greatest comedies ever made. I don't think anyone will ever argue with that. But, I don't know, man. I just don't think that this concept could have worked very well. Maybe if it came out now, with this crazy overabundance of shark movies, it could actually work and be pretty entertaining. But at the time, Jaws was really all you had. It was Jaws and Jaws 2. So making a parody movie of those, I don't know, I just can't see it working very well. And while National Lampoons did have a couple of classics on their back, a good amount of what they were releasing wasn't very good. But to give the movie some credit, it was probably going to be a lot better than the Jaws 3 we did end up getting. Like, what the fuck was that? That's not something I want to watch. I'll take some stupid shark comedy movie any day of the week before I ever watch something like that again. Same with Jaws the Revenge. Maybe this is exactly what the Jaws franchise needed. They had one amazing movie, and they had one subpar action movie. And then after Jaws 2 doesn't do good, you think, oh, maybe this is a wake-up call. We shouldn't keep doing this. If even our second movie in the franchise isn't received well, doesn't make as much money, why would we keep going and trying to make the same thing over and over and over again with diminishing returns? Plus the poster for Jaws 3 People Zero is pretty cool, I can't lie. But with all that being said, I've been your axe murderer. See you next time.
Smile, you son of a